Everybody, welcome back to the Purplatypus is the name, and I have beaten Metaphor ReFantazio. It took me, let's take a look. It took me 86 hours and 22 minutes to beat the game. You don't need to worry about spoilers in this video. I'm going to be talking about the game, and I'm going to be giving my kind of, I don't want to call it a review, but I'm going to be giving you my impressions, my thoughts on the game after completing it. And there will be no spoilers directly talked about the story, and we are now in the Regicide playthrough, so there's nothing visually here that you're going to be able to basically mess it up, right? Like, if you've played the game for 4 hours, you're as far as I am right now. Nothing will be spoiled. So, this game is probably my game of the year. I actually love this game. I'm going to pull up my notes really quick here. I actually adore this game. And I kind of want to go over, I'm going to try to make it not just a thing where I gush all the time. I am going to be doing some positives and some negatives. I'm going to try to sandwich them because I have nitpicks, but for the most part, not really. So let's just jump right into it. Number one, I just want to talk about the story because like I said, I'm not going to spoil it. I think this game has one of the most enjoyable stories I've played in recent memory. There'll probably be a lot of comparisons to Persona just from the overall structure of the game, but it's got, like, I think there's really important when you're talking about story to not just talk about like the plot points, right? There's when you're talking about the story of a game, it's not just plot points. Does this game have moment to moment the most interesting, creative, brand new plot points that I've ever seen in a game? No. Although there are a lot of good twists and turns and things like that. There are a lot of good plot points. But beyond that, the way they tell the story, the narrative of it is really, really well done. Just the characters' dialogue is super well written. Their interactions, how they respond to events, how the characters' personalities come out through the stories, how the events unfolding affects the world, and you could see the impact of it all is incredibly well done, like a masterclass of it. So I'm a huge fan of the story, and I actually think the story has multiple levels. I think this story has a huge amount of depth. I think there's like 3 levels to it, basically. There is like level, and I don't want to get too far into it, but level 1 is a succession of thrones story, right? The king dies in the opening cutscene before you even start the game. When you turn the game on, the king is killed, and now we're trying to figure out who's gonna take become the king afterwards. That's like level 1, that's what the story's about. But level 2, there is this story about self-doubt, anxiety, there's a lot of philosophical questions being thrown around with like the different candidates, stuff like that. And then level 3 is kind of more of like a spoiler level, I feel like, so I don't want to talk about it, but there's a lot of depth to be found here beyond just what you would expect is like a normal part of the story. It's honestly, I'm just impressed in that aspect of the game a lot. But let's get a couple of the nitpicks out of the way. I'm gonna have a couple spoilers when I get to the nitpicks, but I am going to preface them, and that way you can skip ahead. But nitpick 1 is Zorba's voice. I love the voice acting in this game, and in fact, that's one of the things I want to talk about how much I like. I love the voice acting, like Heimse, Hulkenberg, the Perpy Boy, the Will, I think is their canonical name, is maybe my favorite voice acted protagonist ever in any RPG or any game I've played. This is maybe my favorite vocal performance. In fact, I'm gonna put off the nitpick for a while, and I'm gonna talk about this. The voice acting in this game, I think, is like a 10 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, with some performances being an 11 out of 10, like absolutely ridiculous. I think this character, the main character, is voiced in this is the best casting for a voice that I think I've ever heard in a video game. And besides Auron from Final Fantasy X, this is number 2. All right. And this is also the person that voices the Trailblazer and Honkai Star Rail, so you'll probably recognize the voice. But it's hard to describe their performance. I don't think this voice actor would be a perfect fit for a lot of characters, but they are the perfect fit for this character, in my opinion. There is a it's hard to describe it beyond earnest. Our character, you can even tell by looking at him, like, they're not Joker, right? They're not this cool guy. I don't know if we can see like a close-up on the picture, but they're not like Joker where they're like Mr. Cool and everyone just loves them automatically. This is like a slightly timid, like they have strong convictions and they're very brave, but they're still a little soft-spoken, a little timid, but they're earnest, they're very honest and open with their feelings, and it's a very fun way to play a protagonist. Like, if anything, Stroll is more the stereotypical protagonist where they just like are in your fucking face. Same with Hulkenberg. They're more in your face about what's right and wrong. We're more reserved. And I think the vocal performance of this is absolutely spot on. It's a soft voice for kind of a soft personality, but it doesn't also lack strength. It's hard to say it, but like, I've really enjoyed this. I'm actually impressed. And maybe I'm fanboying a little bit, but I thought it was an incredible performance. But I don't want to take away from Gallica, Hulkenberg, Stroll. Heismay is incredibly good. Luis is incredibly good. The voice acting is 10 out of 10, except Zorba. And I'm sorry, I don't mean anything to disrespect Zorba's voice acting. I actually think Zorba is a great voice actor, but it just, for me, feels so out of place for the rest of the game. It's a very, very thick accent. And there's like some characters have a kind of similar accent, but this character has a thicker accent than everybody in the game that doesn't even follow like with their tribe, with their upbringing, where they come from. It just feels like so out of place to me. And to me, the voice and the accent and the character design are all just like so disconnected. I was like, wait, is this their real voice? Are they possessed? I just did not like it. I thought Zorba's voice did not fit their character at all and would have been much better suited to one of the... I feel like there could have been a character in our party or something that had that voice, but it did not feel like a villain style voice. And Zorba's the guy you meet right away in the beginning of the game. He's the Day of Calamity guy in the very beginning of the game, so that's not a spoiler. Let's get a couple more nitpicks out of the way, because I did 2 positives right away. So for me, I love this game. It's probably my game of the year. There's 2 things I want to say though. The formula for me has grown a little bit stale. The Persona formula. I've played a lot of, I've played Persona 3 through probably twice, Persona 4 through once, Persona 5 through completely twice, SMT 3, SMT 4, SMT 5. So, and these are different games, and this game is not exactly like that. But the story segment into a timer segment where you have 10 days like now to complete this, where you do your side objectives and then do the dungeon, where you go into a story segment and then you have 15 days to do this. This has become a little bit stale for me, and I think that if they do a sequel to this game, which I don't think they will, they could though, but not a direct sequel. I don't think. I think it'll be that's getting into spoiler territory, but I think they could do some other things. But I think that they need a little bit of freshness on this style of formula. It's just for someone like me who's played all of them, it's become a little formulaic in the sense that I kind of know how to play these games now. In a sense, I know how to play them optimally. Maybe not literally 100% optimal, but because I know how to play these games now, and I know how to prioritize my time, and I know what to spend time on versus what not to spend time on, how important MP items are and when to use them, how important, like, this game has become a little bit formulaic for me. And even though it was fun, I was kind of waiting for something to really mix it up. And outside of the narrative, the mechanics weren't really that much of a mix-up. Archetypes aren't that different than Personas in a lot of ways. Other than the fact that you could change your party members, which is interesting, but that kind of loops back around where they want you to go back to their original forms, and it's like a little bit not as great. But also, the game for me is just much too easy. And I know some people got really, like, this is an issue that's for the maybe, I don't know, 10% of players or less. For me, this game was very easy. Very, very easy. There was a little bit of difficulty in the beginning, but just as an example, I beat at the end of the game, there's like these trial fights, right? Trial of the Dragon fights. There's no like story significance to them. Well, kind of, but not like, they're not spoilers. I beat those 3 trial dragon fights, no problem. One of them took me 2 tries, the other 2 were each 1 try, and then the 4th final boss I beat in one try easily. The final boss of the game, I beat before they got their first turn. They didn't even get a turn, right? And that's not an exaggeration. The combat starts and you get to go first. Before their turn came up, I had already killed them with two 18,000 damage hits or whatever, right? And so for me, the game was much too easy, but that's kind of because the design of this game is very visceral combat. You either destroy or get destroyed. And I've just played a lot of these games, so I know how the combat works. I know what's good. I know how to properly spend turns, and because they will let you get, and it's not that the game's enemies are too easy, it's more that you are too strong. If I want to just kind of narrow it down, you're too strong in this game. Like some of these late game items, you might want to consider this a spoiler for late game items, I don't know, but some of these late game items are just absolutely busted, right? Like 500 attack, prevent anxiety. You get, I have an item here that gives you an extra turn icon every turn, plus 8 to all stats. Also, I have an ability, like an item here that reflects all magic damage, and then a different one that reflects all physical damage. Then I've got something here that triple or doubles crit damage. It just like, there's so many insanely powerful items and insanely powerful passives that there isn't much difficulty for me. Now, I know that I'm playing on, but this is the thing is, I wish their harder difficulty was harder. And now I'm on Regicide. Maybe this will really, like, they're expecting you to utilize and break the game with all these things. So I'm hoping that on the beginning of Regicide is very easy because you're overpowered. But I am thinking that by the end of the game, it will be very difficult, and I'm very interested to get there. But for the base game, for me, playing on hard mode, it was just too easy. Let's get to something else that I love about the game. And that is, we're going to go two things here. The music. I don't think it's like Persona 5 level, all right? I don't think it's like that iconic, but it's so, it's kind of, because Persona 5, the music really pushes to the front of everything, you know? It's like they want their music to really be in your face. You never see it coming. Oh, you know, a river in dry land, right? Like there's these loud vocals that are in English that you can understand that push through to the front. This game, it's much more in the background. It's literally contextualized, right? Like the reason we hear music is because our fairy friend casts a magic spell that lets us hear music inside of our head that doesn't exist out in the world. So there's no music going on in this world right now. We have a spell cast on us so we can hear music. And they even acknowledge it near the end of the game. And this is not really a spoiler, but they're like, the spell kind of like wears off or something and she recasts it. And you're like, I didn't really think about it, but I bet this spell has helped me out more than I realized. And it's like, it's so fucking true. The music is in the background. It's not pushing really far to the front, like trying to grab your attention, but it enhances the whole game experience in such a important and kind of profound way in a lot of ways. But even though you're not always thinking about it, it's always enjoyable. It's always really top high-end quality, and it's just, it's the perfect theme. And I love every single track that has come up in this game besides one track in the island village, because there's a bunch of people going ta 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 ta. I hated that song. That song, I had to leave that village ASAP. Every other song has been actually just, it's thematic to where you're at. It feels of the times. Because it would be weird if you had like this jazz track from like, you know, like Persona, where it just feels like this is from a different time period, right? This all feels like music that would exist in this very religious, medieval fantasy era with magic. They've just done an incredible job composing the sound for this. Also, the character design in this game is fucking off the charts, bro. The character designs are so good. I mean, look at this lady. Look at her. I'm joking. The normal average people are just normal average people. But like, what now? It's hard. I wish I could see a close-up here of the characters. You know what's funny is Stroll is, I actually want to give a special segment out to Stroll here, but let's take a look right here. Let's talk to her. This is just like one of your followers. She is such a fucking cool looking character. Like actually crazy. You know what's funny is I actually don't even know what race she is. If we go to the followers, there's a few people that are, there's only like a few races that aren't really brought up. You can see here in the middle, she's a Rosette, Clemmer, Fairy, Clemmar, Rog, R-H-O-A-G. They aren't really brought up. Ishkias are the angels, but Rogs, I don't know what they are. They're not really brought up in anything, but this is what she is as well. So I'm not exactly sure. They're not Eldas. They're kind of different, but like our main protagonist design, I mean, don't get me started. Hulkenberg, Heimse, the people at the church, if you're watching like the early cutscenes and you're looking at like Sanctifence Forden and Louise, which Louise is a great design. I love Louise. Forden is a pretty cool design. He just looks like where he's supposed to. But you look at his like group, there's like this person with like a fake eye and like these fake glasses, fucking cool. There's this giant ironclad general, and I'm like, we're gonna fight the fuck out of these guys. These guys are the cabal at the top end of the church. I play Final Fantasy. These are like the judges. And they're just side characters, and they're fucking designed super well. The other candidates, you know, these characters are, the character designs are just like 10 out of 10. If you're playing the game and you see these characters, they look cool. They look badass. Now let's give a special segment here to Stroll. Stroll is, if you've been following my sort of Convallaria video, this reminds me of Edda, where I love this design. It's kind of like the Trailblazer in Honkai Star Rail. I didn't think I'd compare it to that game twice, but I think there is a beauty and an elegance in designing a really, really good character that visually looks good, that isn't reliant on over the top fucking shit. You know, like when you're looking at Stroll, he could be a side character, but I think that they've actually done a good job. He looks like he could be a side character, but they've given him enough uniqueness where no one else in the game looks like him specifically, right? Like he looks like his own character, but I mean, look at, he has a very dull color hair. He has dull color eyes. He's got like just a normal orange vest, and he's wearing like a normal, just like he's wearing like normal clothes, right? This could be like a side character, but they've done a good job of making him look like a side character while giving him enough uniqueness, I think. But like, I think there's something so great about being able to do a really, really high quality, mild, you know, character, a reserved character. Not every character has to have two, like I like our protagonist, don't get me wrong, all right? But not every character needs to have fucking two-tone eyes and blue hair, or just like completely solid red hair with, or, you know, giant spiky outfits with Final Fantasy dumbass, you know, zippers everywhere. Stroll is, I think they did a good job, right? The protagonist looks cool. I like them. Hulkenberg looks awesome. I fucking love Hulkenberg. Beautiful, cool red hair, just a cool design. I like the outfit, but like with Stroll, it's so reserved, but I think that it does such a good job of showing how you can go over the top with a really, really good, kind of typical, more like flashy design, but you can also execute on a simpler design that's just done very well. So I actually think Stroll is like a really good example of how someone, you don't need to go over the top to make good characters. You can make reserved characters that look cool. It also, his personality really puts him above. He is the most bold personality. He added protagonist personality of the whole party. Like there'll be some big shit going on and our main character sitting there looking because he's a little more reserved, and then Stroll will just run up and takes action. I mean, Stroll is a man of action, bro. Even more so than Hulkenberg. So Stroll is a 10 out of 10 character for sure. All right, let's get another one of my nitpicks out of the way. And this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I honestly think this might resonate with some people. If you have played this game enough, you are going to, okay, they just need to put a cooldown on this. When you're running, every time you start running, if you're sprinting, you make a sound. Every single time. And this is, I know it sounds crazy. Once you're going, it's fine, right? When you're moving, it doesn't make a sound. But a lot of times when you're in a new dungeon and you don't know the levels of enemies, I'll end up doing this, right? I'll be like, I'm trying to get close enough so I can see their levels without running and getting their attention. And so I'll be doing something like this, and then I'm like, all right, they're level 9, and then I just hear, ha, 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 ha. Or I'm looking around here and I'm trying to get an item, like, oh, there we go. And I'll just like do this, and I just hear it all the time. Just so please make it so it just doesn't add a patch. Make it so there's a cooldown. And you know what's worse is it gets worse when you're dodging. Listen to this, all right? When every time you dodge, you make a sound, right? Every time you run, you make a sound. So if you're running and dodging, you make 2 sounds every time. Like, listen to this. It's just unnecessary. It's too much. Hear how much he's fucking talking? I'm done. I love this game. All right, I'm gonna keep stating that. That shit pisses me off, bro. I end up running around not sprinting because I'm tired of getting yelled at in the ear all the time. It's like, and I know that's nitpicky, but this is like, when you love a game this much, the cracks, all you see are the little things. All I see are the little things because the whole broad picture is really good, but I'm like, wait a second. You know, that sun isn't yellow, that sun's too red. It's not quite the right color. You know, it's like you point out the little things. So that does bug me, honestly. And that, I think, literally, that could be a patch. Just make it so you can't make the sprinting sound more than once every 30 seconds or something. I don't know, like, this shouldn't proc every time you start moving like that. Okay, spoilers. We're getting into spoilers here. I don't know where it's gonna stop. I will try to put a timestamp or something where you can, I'll put like spoilers start, spoilers end, and then that way you don't need to get in there. These are nitpicks, but they are definitely 100% spoilers if you're not very far into the game. You have been warned. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay, so
what now?
One of the biggest issues for me was if you come over here and you're looking at synthesis, the mechanics of the game spoil some of the story elements. All right, so let me find if I actually have one right now. I might be too early in the game. Here we go, right here. Okay, there's a point in the game where you have pretty much all your party members and you have everything, and I had Masked Dancer, Summoner, and Berserker left to unlock. How do I know which ones I still have left to unlock? Well, you could take a look at these right here, right? This one has Masked Dancer and Berserker, and I'm sure if you go to the Mage, there's one that's like Summoner. The game broke for a second there. Here we go, Summoner. So you can look at the allies required for synthesis, and I wasn't looking at these to spoil things. I was just reading synthesis and see what I needed. And so it tells you the names of these things, right? That may not sound like a big deal, but here's the thing. I got to the point in the game where I needed the Masked Dancer, the Summoner, and the Berserker. I was very confident that, so it basically spoiled Dell's death, okay? Because here's the thing. I knew that I was gonna get a Berserker. I knew, because it was unlikely to be a follower at that point because I probably needed one more party member in order to make the game just make sense. There were 2 brothers. One of them was 4 feet tall. One of them is 7 feet tall with a giant axe. I know one of them's gonna be like, I'm like, hey, I see that guy, and I'm like, he's probably going to be the Berserker, all right? Because he's in the game at a couple points, and it's like, you wouldn't think he'd be an ally, so it's like, it's a great moment. But I'm like, there's no way he joins us while Dell is alive. And Dell isn't gonna be a party member because neither of them are a Masked Dancer, neither of them are a Summoner, and only one of them is a Berserker. So it's like, it got spoiled for me that this character was going to die, just because in the synthesis they put Berserker lineages. I wish they just had it where it was like ally required warrior, brawler, or question marks. Things that you haven't unlocked yet doesn't tell you, you know? There was just story spoilers within the synthesis menu, which may not be the biggest deal, but it definitely took a little bit of that out of the game for me, myself, a little bit of wind out of the sails at those specific moments. Also, another major spoiler. So Juna's sister, the angel chick, is the one that cursed the prince, okay? It wasn't Luis, it was the angel chick. We all know that because you're in the spoiler territory. She got a slash on the back. I think this is just like, this is a nitpick, but I think this is like a huge missed opportunity. She got slashed on the back that caused basically she got a big slash on the back that Hulkenberg did. They thought it was Louise. It turned out it was the Angel. A sword slash on the back. This is a character with 4 wings. They're an angel person, right? They have 4 wings. I really think it's a huge missed opportunity to not have her have 3 wings in the game. Like, that is subtle enough where you may not realize it because the wings aren't out, right? And they're like wrapped around their bodies. So I think it would be, she has no, the slice in the back has no visual on her as a character, on who it happened to. And this is a sword strike slicing the back and drawing a lot of blood. This would cause permanent damage, especially to a character that has 4 wings on the back of them. Like, if one of their wings was like cut in half or damaged or something in some way, like, it would be so easily explained away. Logically, the game could choose to not address it at all, or they could choose to, like, oh yeah, my wing got damaged. You know, when I joined the church, there was whatever, an igniter issue. When I was trying to heal someone, they were rabid and they lashed out, ripped one of my wings. Like, you could come up with a million different believable reasons. But I really think that it was a lack of visual, like, because then it would have felt like, oh my God, that's why her wing was gone. But there was just nothing. And she even turns around at a point. I never thought I'd have to show anyone this. And she turns around to show you her back. And then it's like, she like does something else not related to her back at all. I just was like, this would felt like a really missed opportunity for a really cool moment for a character design to tell a story. Where most of the time it's 10 out of 10. It felt like a big, like, how come you didn't do anything right there? Those are the 2 things that were spoilers that I wanted to nitpick that I think could have been done better. But besides that, all right, let's get back into the positives. The archetype system. The last thing I kind of want to talk about here, now that we're getting deep into the video, is the archetype system. I think that this is an incredibly well done system. I like this more than Personas. So Personas are fun, but there's like 600 of them, and they get replaced over time with, there's like 600 of them. I mean, not literally, but so many of them are just like similar, right? They're just like, oh, this one has this combination of skills. This one has that combination of skills. Very few times do they have unique things. Every archetype is unique in a way that, I mean, every persona is unique, but they are unique in ways that they'll have a bunch of unique passives, and you can carry over these specific passives to other characters. They have very specific stat spreads. They have unique synthesis that cannot be carried over. And in some situations like this right here, this is perfect, right? Metaphor can only be used by, sorry, not only, but it could be used by the mage. But if you come up here to the wizard, you can't use Metaphor, right? They don't have it. They have Skyfall Bolt. Now, the elemental guy does have it, but at this, there's a point in the game where in the mid game, you might want to stick with mage over the wizard because you might want the fire attack of Metaphor, and you might not want the lightning attack of Skyfall Bolt, you know? So the archetypes are done very well. They're unique. They're fun, cool designs. They have a lot of power in them, especially when you start combining them. You get some ridiculous power, especially over here. Actually kind of, but it's the reason you're too strong in this game in a lot of ways. But yes, you get a ton of power and it's cool. And what also makes it better than Persona is they've expanded the system to your allies. Now, I think they don't go quite hard enough because they have this thing where it's like, oh, this is kind of their designated path. And without spoiling it, let's just say they give you reasons you might want to keep them on their standard path. So you're mostly going into these other skills, it feels like, to encourage getting other abilities and stuff, like but it feels like you primarily want to keep them somewhere around their home, although I think Stroll's the exception in my first playthrough. But yeah, so the archetype system is very, very good. I hope they expanded on it a bit more and add a little more uniqueness to, because when I heard over 40 archetypes, I didn't think it would be like Pokemon. You know, you have the healer, I have the cleric, and then I have the savior, I have the seeker, then I have the magic seeker, then I have the soul hacker. You know, like this is kind of Pokemon, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard in a lot of ways. So I kind of hope that they do less of the evolving and more of like just the different paths being completely different. But with the way the followers work, I kind of think you need the Pokemon system. But yes, I do think that this is an incredibly good system. I like it more than the Persona system because it gives each of these it gives each of these has a much more unique identity than just the visuals of the character, which like a lot of early personas do. And in the late game, they get very strong, unique abilities that I think are, so I think they've kind of taken the best of the persona system. They've simplified it down. They got rid of a lot of the just junk around it with just like way too many different things. And then they also expanded it to your party members. So it's not just the main character that gets all the cool stuff, right? Your party members also get all the cool stuff. So overall, I think it's a very good system. And I think that's going to wrap it up. So again, I've played this game for 87 hours now. I did pretty much everything on my first playthrough. I will be surprised if this is not my game of the year. This game has been an incredible experience for me. I've been staying up till 4 in the morning playing it, spending all my time every day playing this game. I've neglected my other games that I'm supposed to be playing. I'm supposed to be playing Sword of Convalaria. This is all I've done. And it's all I'm gonna do until I get all the achievements, which means I got to beat the game a second time. You don't necessarily have to beat this game a second time, but the way I did it, I'm gonna have to. We could do a guide on it. I want to do a couple like, things you may not know about the game, but the amount of just like hidden interactions in the game of like when you poop on your Skyrunner on Idol's Day, you get a permanent luck. The fact that when you go around town and you look at the things, I can't really look at it right now, but like you'll have things that increase your virtues. Like they all have their own mini story arcs. So it's like, if you go to this guy and talk to them 3 days or 2 days, he'll tell you the first half of a story and the second half of a story. So you want to go back, or this person will do this and this person will do that. So there's so much just like detail and care put into every aspect of the game. I didn't even talk about the menus, but I mean, look at this fucking gorgeous ass menu. Actually ridiculous. This is the best party screen I've ever seen, ever. If you come into the fucking system settings, he has a shoe. If you come into the calendar, it looks pretty good. The quest, you can see his feet, right? He's looking down. The follower, you can see his face there. And then when you go to the party members and examine them, right? They all have this like Leonardo da Vinci or whatever, fucking the medicine man guy thing. The menus are 10 out of 10, right? I mean, they already know it. That's one of the things they put in a lot of effort to. But my God, look how good this is. I can't tell you how cool it is to see the characters presented in this way. This is a 10 out of 10 screen. And even the background, look at all these items that keep, like, the screens are all active and moving. There's like a bunch of frames that it cycles through. I love it. So this game has been absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend it to everybody. And it is, I don't want to call it a 10 out of 10 experience because there's always something that could be better. But for me, this has been a 10 out of 10 experience. And I am so excited to see what they do next, what their next big game is. I actually hope, I wouldn't mind if they added DLC to this game, or spin-off or mini games, or I just want more from them now. And I know I'm gonna have to wait years and years for a substantial new thing. But this has been absolutely a joy, and I'm actually going to beat the game a second time just because I'm not done having fun with it yet. I'm going to keep going. But that is all for today, guys. Thank you very much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Metaphor ReFantazio. It's been an absolute joy, and I'm going to be making more videos, but now that I've finished the game and it's fresh in my mind, I want to get this out there while I still can before it starts to fade my initial reactions. All right, see you guys in the next one. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. See you on the flip-flops. Bye!